Everyone knows the Chick-fil-A basics. Their popularity is only growing as they expand farther and farther across the US. So what should you know before you head there again? Every now and then, the chain does away with a beloved item, like their carrot and raisin salad. The restaurant regularly upgrades the menu, and 2016 saw a swing to more healthy options. In came the egg white grill, and out went the beloved but less than healthy cinnamon cluster. To many, it was a tragedy. But the melancholy Chick-fil-A fan can take heart that the powers that be are as helpful as they can be when discontinuing an item. They have a Hall of Fame dedication on their website to the fallen foods. And to help mend some broken hearts, they went as far as providing the coleslaw recipe gratis to soothe the faithful. Now you can make at least one of your long-time but long-gone favorites right in your own kitchen. Thanks, Chick-fil-A! Many a restaurant has tried to emulate Chick-fil-A, but not all copies are of the traditional quick-serve variety. Famed chef David Chang has quite the affinity for fast food, and decided to take a shot at making his own recreation of the famous Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich. At his fairly quick-serve restaurant Fuku, Chang went all in and made a restaurant specializing in chicken, and featured a spicy chicken sandwich just like the ones from Chick-fil-A. Make no mistake, Chang has spoken publicly about drawing inspiration from Chick-fil-A. So how does it hold up against the original, according to taste tests? Well, there are plenty of sites out there that have compared the two, and the final verdict is really up to you. There's a reason people like to call Chick-fil-A healthy fast food. And while it might be better for you than other places, it's still fast food. One thing that even the most ardent label reader can't deny is that Chick-fil-A is indeed making strides to improve their product and make it more accessible to those with allergies. In 2017, they introduced a gluten-free bun, available with their grilled chicken. The bun comes pre-sealed to avoid cross-contamination, and you have to build it yourself. Chick-fil-A has also taken steps to remove dyes and high-fructose corn syrup from their standard buns and switch from iodized salt to sea salt on their oh-so-popular fries in 2017. In a continuing effort to improve, they pledged to only use cage-free eggs by 2026, reduce sodium across the menu, and stop using chickens raised with antibiotics. Rarely has a restaurant become so synonymous with a phrase that wasn't some catchy commercial line. But CFA pulled it off with just a simple courtesy after they hand you your food.
And there's your own sweet tea. My pleasure. And there's your Coke. My pleasure.
So where did it come from? Chick-fil-A's version of the origin comes from founder Truett Cathy. Upon a visit to a Ritz-Carlton, the kindly Cathy thanked a Ritz employee who responded with a simple, "My pleasure." More heartfelt than a typical "you're welcome," the phrase stuck with him. The rest, as they say, is history. Truett Cathy may have opened Chick-fil-A by himself, but when he founded the chain's predecessor, the Dwarf House, he had a partner in his brother Ben Cathy. The brothers first opened the Dwarf Grill, which later became the Dwarf House. Just a few years later, on a Saturday after his shift at the Dwarf, Ben and his brother Horace planned a flight to Chattanooga. Tragically, they never arrived. Their plane crashed in Dalton, Georgia, just about 35 miles south of Chattanooga. And in a moment, Truett lost two brothers and his business partner. Amazingly, he trudged on, and less than 20 years later spun out his first Chick-fil-A. It's easier than you might think to make Chick-fil-A's chicken at home. There's a plethora of copycat recipes out there, and while a lot of people assume that since there's a pickle served with a chicken, the secret marinade is pickle juice, it's not. The ingredients have nary a reference to pickle juice, and what you're tasting is just plain old vinegar. There's also MSG and a milk wash. And now you know enough to make your own when the cravings hit on Sunday.
Can you guess what the top-selling item is at Chick-fil-A?
And stop right there.
Wrong. It's the waffle fries. Sounds insane, right? But look at it this way. What is offered with every combo meal? Sure, you can substitute that kale thing or some other side, but let's be real. How many people can head to a fast food joint of any kind and resist the fries?
The French fries are pretty good.
French fried potatoes.
Yep, French fries.
That might have been a bit of a trick question. So how about this one? Which main menu item sells the best? It shouldn't come as too much of a shock, but the most popular chicken item at Chick-fil-A is the original chicken sandwich. Thanks in part to all the options, it beats nuggets hands down. There's nothing like the old, reliable, original chicken sandwich for countless customers. Chick-fil-A might have thought a change to their barbecue sauce in 2016 would go over pretty well, but people had, well, strong opinions about the switch from original to smokehouse.
Someone console me. Chick-fil-A changed their barbecue sauce and my life is ruined. So sad.
Fans took to extreme measures to get their point across, and after months of social media protests, and what might just be the only online petition that ever actually worked, Chick-fil-A caved and announced they were bringing back the original barbecue sauce. Fans are serious.
Hey Chick-fil-A, tell whoever came up with the idea to change your barbecue sauce that they maybe shouldn't have any more ideas. Ouch.
So what's the secret to Chick-fil-A? How do they make delicious chicken happen so fast? Fortunately for fans, Chick-fil-A President Dan Cathy spilled the beans on the real trick to how they get it done and just how they stumbled on the quick cooking idea. The Dwarf Grill started out serving workers on their break from the nearby Ford plant. Workers didn't have a lot of time to wait around for chicken to fry up for 15 minutes, so they developed a method of pressure cooking the chicken, then serving it up on a bun. They not only created what Cathy says was the first chicken sandwich, but it got everyone in and out quickly, was tasty, and was an absolute win. It takes about 4 minutes to cook up a Chick-fil-A sandwich, and that's the same method they still use today. The biggest court in the land is the court of public opinion and social media. And in June 2018, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey fell afoul of it when he tweeted an image that implied he ordered Chick-fil-A during LGBT Pride Month. Dorsey apologized, of course, and that's just one instance of outrage frequently directed at the notoriously conservative chain. So are they hurting their business by being so public about their personal views? The short answer is no. Sales have almost doubled since 2012, the year Chick-fil-A's anti-gay marriage backing became national news. Calls went out for Chick-fil-A protests and boycotts, but that press attention may have worked in their favor. It's possible that people who had never visited a Chick-fil-A became curious what the place was about and discovered a food they liked in the process. Meanwhile, President Dan Cathy has tried to take the sting out of some of the worst of his statements and says he's not the hate monger he's made out to be.
I've been able to reach out to people in the gay community and sit down and have some incredibly wonderful dialogue with them.
Don't tell the cows, but you can order a hamburger at a few Chick-fil-A's. How can they stoop to such dirty marketing deeds? Well, technically, it's not a Chick-fil-A, but it kinda is. Truett Cathy opened his first questionably named Dwarf Grill in 1946. And in case you're wondering, they all come complete with a tiny little door. The Hapeville, Georgia location still exists today with a Chick-fil-A appendage on the original restaurant, and it's just one of 11 locations in the Atlanta area. And yes, the Dwarf House was one of many diners in the South boasting a full-service menu. To the dismay of the Chick-fil-A cows, the traditional diner fare included hamburgers, and it still does. Can we keep this one quiet? No chain restaurant rakes it in like Chick-fil-A. Taking in just under $3.2 million gross revenue per store in 2012, the average Chick-fil-A can outgross even the mighty McDonald's. The franchise fee for Chick-fil-A is, as of 2018, a minuscule $10,000. That means owning a store as a franchise is a highly sought-after commodity. But potential owners shouldn't expect the luxuries that usually accompany the high life. There are some downsides, starting with the moment corporate picks the spot and buys the land where the restaurant goes. They'll own that forever, and franchisees will never have a chance to buy it from them. Everything at the location is rented to the franchisee for a 15% pre-tax sales fee. And on top of that, a whopping 50% of gross profits heads to the home office in Atlanta. To put that in perspective, the industry standard is for corporate to take between 5 and 10% of gross sales. They also demand that owners not just be a name on a sign somewhere. If you own a Chick-fil-A, they want you to be hands-on and promise to fall in line with all of their beliefs, including closing on Sundays. Still, the overwhelming majority of Chick-fil-A franchise owners keep their stores for life, even though they won't spend those lives as millionaires. Investors might be craving the chance to get their hands on some Chick-fil-A stock, but the Cathy family has steadfastly maintained that just ain't gonna happen.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Founder Truett Cathy died in 2014 after a long career, first behind the counter, then at the helm of a massive chain. But before he passed, he made a deal with his children that would make sure the devoutly religious beliefs and family values that he founded the company on would remain intact. His heirs can sell the chain, but it must remain private. Why keep his kin from the potential billions in windfall? It's impossible to tell for sure just what the conversation was, but industry analysts at Business Insider suggest it's because Cathy knew that publicly, Chick-fil-A would be beholden to shareholders and the opinions of others who might not share his family's conservative views. They point out Chick-fil-A's corporate statement: to glorify God by being a faithful steward of all that is entrusted to us, and to have a positive influence on all who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. That would have to change if they ever went public, and they suggest that change is a huge part of the reason their founder wanted them to stay private. It's not unheard of for people to squirrel away a few packets of Chick-fil-A sauce to apply to their own home cooking. There are copycat recipes available, but let's be honest, they're never quite the same, are they? A word of warning though, before you go and crank up your own homemade awesomeness with a pack or two of the real deal, you might want to consider investing in an elliptical. A solitary, tiny little 1-ounce packet of Chick-fil-A sauce is a whopping 140 calories. Chick-fil-A has only really had major success in America, even though they have ventured into international territories in the past. They pulled out of their short-lived South African venture in 2001, and it wasn't until 2014 they went international again, while still staying close to home. That's when they opened a Canadian location in the Calgary airport, which is admittedly not the first thing you think of when you start talking about north of the border. Chick-fil-A has had better luck in airports than in actually setting up shop overseas, and if the response to the 2018 news they were moving to Toronto is any judge, it might have something to do with the fact they're known as the controversial American chicken joint. So for now, they're sticking mostly to their home turf, with Alaska, Vermont being the last states without a Chick-fil-A. Why Vermont? Hey, it's a strange place.
Do it. Oh, go girlfriend. I'm your mother. Come on, Thorny, you're losing to the rookie. It's embarrassing. Come on, Rabbit.
If you really want free Chick-fil-A, there's an app for that, and it rewards you for using the platform with free food items after you reach certain thresholds. That's the easy way, but there's another way to get free grub. If you want to get free food the really hard way, how about being born there? After one woman gave birth in a San Antonio Chick-fil-A in 2018, they promised the baby free food for life. Happy birthday! Chick-fil-A also isn't above giving away food for a worthy cause, and sometimes human tragedy even outweighs their own rules about closing on Sundays. In 2016, after the tragic Pulse nightclub shootings in Orlando, Chick-fil-A not only broke their Sunday rules, but they reached across what had previously been a major boundary. A location near the club opened their kitchens and delivered food to first responders and to those donating blood on the Sunday after the attacks. Stores have also helped on the scenes of other natural disasters, from hurricanes to tornadoes, reaching out to help the community no matter what day of the week. Given the tight reins placed upon franchises, you wouldn't expect a lot of independent thought allowed in the stores, but the Chick-fil-A powers recognized it when good stuff came out of a store in Virginia. As unlikely as it sounds, there were originally no dipping sauces with the chicken nuggets, until that is, Hugh Fleming saw a need. He was whipping up his own honey mustard for the nuggets, and later, by a happy accident, it was mixed in with the location's standard barbecue sauce. It was a massive hit, and people were pretty upset that was the only Chick-fil-A that carried it. Chick-fil-A tried to make a copycat version on their own, and while honey roasted barbecue wasn't bad, it wasn't Mr. Fleming's sauce either. In 2007, Fleming gave Chick-fil-A the recipe, literally, as in he doesn't take any royalties for the sauce. Chick-fil-A took it national, renamed it, and now they go through more than 84 million packets a year. In the 1980s and 90s, the shopping mall was the place to hang, no matter what time of the year. Malls across the country were hugely popular going back into the 60s, so it's easy to see how opening the first Chick-fil-A in Atlanta's Greenbrier Mall was a great business decision. The idea behind Chick-fil-A was quite an innovation, and it opened at a time when malls were for shopping and eating happened elsewhere. Kathy noticed the shift to indoor mall shopping, especially in muggy Atlanta, and figured people would eat there as well. They did, and Kathy used the mall location to introduce the public to his unique chicken sandwich. It was popular, obviously, and from there, Chick-fil-A moved to other malls throughout the Southeast. It wasn't until 1986 that Chick-fil-A constructed their first standalone store. And while corporate experimented with drive-thru only locations, they ultimately decided the brick-and-mortar walk-in model was the way to go. Chick-fil-A continues to expand, so if there's not one near you, there probably will be soon.